It's the first day of school and you go to your first class of the day and sit down. Your teacher starts going over syllabus, but it's getting pretty boring. You look outside and see a cool butterfly. You start to zone out as your eyes follow the colorful butterfly. But right as the butterfly leaves the room, your teacher asks you a question about the syllabus. You don't know the answer to that question since you haven't been paying attention. You're scared of what is going to happen. You'd sat out before because of this, but you want to make a good impression. Will he care, or will this make him hate you? You finally tell your teacher, I don't know. Right as those words come out of your mouth, you could feel him getting angry. You knew you were going to get sent out of the classroom, so you start packing up as he's going off on you. He now hates you, your worst nightmare. But this is a daily occurrence for you because you have ADHD. Students with ADHD and other disabilities should not get in trouble for their neurodivergency. Schools need to offer more help for students with disabilities. According to the NCOD, individuals with learning disabilities are 3 times more likely to drop out of school. This shows us that the education system we have does not help students with disabilities. In fact, it's the opposite and harms them. Schools need to offer more help for students with disabilities, and that is my concern. First, we'll investigate the reason why teachers aren't provided with disability training. Next, we'll examine the effects the lack of training has on students with disabilities. Finally, we will address this detrimental problem with legislation so that no disabled student has to feel left behind. I think we can all say that teachers need training for teaching disabled students. An article written by EdSource talks about minimal training for special ed teachers. They write, but professional development budgets are often constrained, and districts are limited how much they will spend to hire substitutes while teachers are being trained. Schools are now facing the problem whether they should pay to get their teachers trained or save the money and not get their teachers trained. Schools should not have to have this problem. They should be able to get their teachers trained and not have to worry about affording other school activities. I've had many special ed students and teachers before my classes. Sometimes these students may have a breakdown or freak out. In my experience, the special ed teacher does not try to de-escalate the situation unless the student starts harming others. They mostly do nothing until the student tires themselves out and finally stops. But these freakouts can last a while and disrupt the entire classroom. So if these teachers were to get more training, or even just some training, then these students will calm down and return to their work faster. It will also allow the other students in the classroom to not get distracted and be able to focus on their work. Even if teachers go out and seek training, they may not find many courses. According to Atlantic, many teacher education programs offer just one class about teaching disabled students to their general education teachers. This means that even if teachers go above and beyond and seek training, then they still may not learn much. No matter what teachers do, seek training or not, they're still unprepared for students with disabilities. My friend from elementary school struggled with severe ADD. He had a really hard time communicating with his teachers and peers. His teachers never really understood him, and because of that, his needs were neglected. He needed a bit of extra help to be caught up with the other students, but his teachers never offered that. He often felt like an outsider and had very low self-image because of that. His grades also were hurt too. Just because his teachers refused to take that little extra step to see how he was doing and help support him. His grades were in the gutter, his self-esteem was in the gutter, and his overall feelings were in the gutter just because his teachers neglected him. Teachers need training to help better teach their students with disabilities. Disabilities Group wrote a new study that showed that teachers who receive specialized training had their students with ASD achieve more success. They write, cases where teachers receive specialized training, those on the spectrum were initiating more, participating more, having back and forth conversations more, and responding to their peers and teachers more frequently. Teachers need training not just to help themselves, but to help their students. Without training, students will not be able to benefit. Over this pandemic and quarantine, students with disabilities suffered worse than other students. According to U.S. News, a separate poll they conducted among 1,200 parents in California during the same time span shows that just 24% reported that schools were offering instructional material for students with disabilities. This means that over 76% of students with disabilities were not getting an adequate education over this pandemic. With us now being back at school, they will not be at the same learning level as their fellow classmates. They'll be far behind and may never be able to catch back up. I myself am in a special school for students with disabilities. Each class has 25 students and 3 teachers. The first of these teachers is a special education teacher that has taken specialized training courses to help special ed students. They help when a student has a breakdown or freak out and help teach topics in a different way. The second of these teachers is an aide that helps make sure students are on task and helps answer questions. The third and final teacher is any other normal teacher. This approach of teaching and learning is called co-teaching. This school has allowed for many students with disabilities to outperform their peers. I know for myself that this school has greatly helped me from everything from grades to social skills. Without this school, many students with disabilities would not be doing as well as they are doing now. Some disabled students are able to be in these special schools or receive extra help, but many are not as fortunate. To help the less fortunate disabled students and all students, I'm introducing a 4-piece legislation called HELP. The first part of HELP is H. H stands for Hand Out More Funds for Schools. We recently learned that some teachers were unable to get the training they need because schools could not afford substitutes. With this new funding, teachers will get the training they desperately need. We also learned that when teachers get more training, that students with disabilities achieve more success. The funding for this will come from defunding private colleges. According to WJLA, overall the federal government gave $40 billion to public and private universities in 2017 for research and development. Why are these private colleges receiving this money even after collecting their obscene tuition checks? With defunding these private colleges, more funding will be made available for public K through 12 schools. The next letter is E, which stands for employ more special ed teachers in the classroom. With this new funding, we will afford for more special ed teachers. These special ed teachers can work in the classroom with the teachers that are working right now. We can implement a co-teaching learning experience. Christine S. Walter Thomas studied the benefits and problems that came with co-teaching. Christine found that co-teaching not only increased academic performance and social skills for students with disabilities, but also for general education students. So why wouldn't we hire more special ed teachers and implement this co-teaching learning experience if all students could benefit greatly? The next letter is L, which stands for lessen the need for discipline for students with disabilities. Many students with disabilities cannot control themselves. They may be unable to keep quiet after being told to, or unable to sit down. Many teachers consider this as a fine and send the kids to the dean, but these kids cannot control themselves. They're being punished for their disabilities, and that should not be happening. That is why we need to lessen the need for discipline. The last and final part is P, which stands for providing and requiring more training for special education teachers. This act will add more than 20 hours of different training and require teachers to get a minimum of 10 hours. We recently learned from many teachers that there is only one course available to them for teaching disabled students. We also learned that when teachers get trained, that students with disabilities benefit greatly. So when teachers get the training they desperately need, students with disabilities will be able to benefit greatly. We need to implement HELP now. Many students are falling behind in class and may never be able to recover from this learning loss. Thank you.